How do you feel though about signing a running back to a second deal after experiencing the Zeke situation?
I just think it depends on who that guy is.
Mm-hmm.
And lately, I don't think you should do it for bell cow. I think
The weapons.
the most recent thing I think that made sense is as you see what Tennessee and Derrick Henry was able to make up. I mean, that type of deal they put together. He's a bell cow, 3 down guy. He's not really a pass catcher, and generally people, you know, what I mean, before this year viewed him as the number one back in the league, but he's only making around 12 million per year. And then you have the other guys who we would call the dual threats, like you know, your Saquon. Talk about Saquon, but you know, like a CMC. I
Mm-hmm.
don't have a problem paying a CMC or a Kamara. But the thing is, if you're going to pay these guys like that, I think you do have to manage the workload a little bit.
Sure.
You got to look at it from a different perspective of how they manufacture their touches. So if you thought back to this process, no, I wouldn't have paid Zeke that second deal. But then, you know, what I mean, you have these guys like Saquon and these dual threat running backs. If I can use you as a running back and a receiver, then I think maybe we should look at it from a standpoint of, yeah, you may be worth 12 million as a running back, but you may be extra 4 million for a receiver. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? Like a little, you know.
No, yeah,
But if I'm gonna
definitely.
run you 300 times per year and you're gonna have all these tread on your tires, I don't think it makes sense, man. You can find these guys anywhere, to be honest.
Kind of like what I was saying with Tony. Like, I just think it all depends on touches. Because even in college, Tony shared a backfield. You know what I mean? Like, it wasn't
Yeah.
even like he wasn't a 3 down guy, and he played a lot of receiver too.
I mean, you look all around the league, like how many teams are with one guy getting 80% of the touches?
Two.
It's not many.
It's Najee Harris and Derrick Henry. That's it. Everybody
Yeah.
else got two or three
And
guys.
so, and I mean, eventually those guys are going to get banged up, whether it's during the season or, you know, over time. So, um, I'm kind of with the trend that the running back position is going down. I don't think you just pay a guy just to pay a guy. I think we'll see the average kind of come back down. Like either you're a star or you're not. And if you ain't a star, I think we'll be kind of leaning back towards like the 10 million average per year type
Mm-hmm.
range. So that's why I'm at with it. Well, that kind of just leads me to thinking like the Saquon situation, right? So I see that the Giants was offering him around 12.5 million per year,
Mm-hmm.
but then obviously that's a number too low, right? So I'm pretty sure he's probably looking at that CMC somewhere around that 16 million per year, and you know, for them it's a difference because we always wonder like, hey, like this guy get hurt, like has CMC earned his deal since?
Yeah.
You think CMC earned that deal?
I mean, San Francisco's happy with what they've paid him.
But listen,
You know
it's
what I
different
mean?
because San Fran is the perfect situation. Like he's going to use three backs over there.
Right.
He's going to have an Elijah Mitchell, but in you know, Carolina,
Oh, it's a
you know,
disaster for
only
them.
reason Deontay Freeman got on the field was because the CMC was hurt. But if not, then you know, what I mean, this is your Balco.
Right.
So I think it's a perfect thing what you just said because obviously committee. So Alvin Kamara, same situation. Has he earned that deal since he got it?
Oh no, not even
No,
close.
right?
Now there's
So
Dalvin.
I think you look at the top guys, and I just want to get a quick view of that real fast. So I see, okay, you have a Christian McCaffrey, Kamara, Zeke, Dalvin Cook as well. When you think about those guys, Aaron Jones, who just recently took a pay cut, and then Nick Chubb. Nick Chubb actually, I guess you could
He's
look at
doing
him
his
at a
thing.
mode that he's doing his thing. He would look at him like a bell cow, but he's still splitting carries over there. But all of these guys that are built like this are, you know, they have injury history, man.
Mm-hmm.
So I think from a Saquon standpoint, this is a guy who's been injured a lot. So if you're the Giants, do you balance that and say, hey, look, Saquon, you've been injured way too often. You want me to pay you this much, but the guys that are getting paid this much, look at what they've done and look what you've done.
Right.
No knock against you though. You know what I mean?
No, there's definitely a fear with paying Saquon. He does have a crazy injury history, but he did look to have bounced back last year. But because of that, I don't think you can. If you pay him 12 and a half, I think you have to go get another running back as well. Uh, Maybe even like 10. You go talk to Saquon. You're like, hey, dude, we don't want to use you as a bell cow. We want to get you in here 10, $12 million. We're going to bring in another guy to take carries off of you. And then you'll just be this weapon that we use when we need you, like 50, 60% of the time. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I think that would make more sense. But to pay him 12 and a half to be a bell cow, that just only ends one way, in my opinion.
Yeah. And I think 12.5 million is fair. You know what I mean? Like I
Yeah.
said, it's right around the Derrick Henry range. I think Aaron Jones got the pay cut to be in that range. Um, but it just depends on how they plan to use them. And if that's the way I'm gonna use them, then hey man, I feel like if you have your number, you're sticking to it. Maybe use it. Can you see if they double up on the franchise tag? It's gonna be a little bit higher anyway.
Right.
So I think it doesn't make much sense to pay him anything above that. But you know what I mean, with everything and how it's going, I think it's gonna roll down to what they plan on doing with Daniel Jones. And then the identity that Brian Daboll wanna go over there is if you want to be a run heavy team, then pay Saquon. If
Right.
you want to put this in Daniel Jones' hands a little bit more, then hey man, you're gonna have to make a decision, man.
To segue over to Daniel Jones, apparently he wants what, like 45 million? That's not happening. But
That's deep.
I think that in order to re-sign Daniel Jones, you're going to have to re-sign Saquon because he played a big key in Daniel Jones' success this season. So I think you got to try to find a way to keep both of them. But you can move on with Saquon and not Daniel Jones. You know what I mean? Other way around, I don't think it
True.
works. So realistically speaking, the top paid quarterbacks, you got what? Watson, Dak, Mahomes, Allen, Tannehill,
Kyler.
Kyler. I know what's his name. Matt Ryan's still up there, which if you're looking at it that way, I think the contract
I don't
that
think Matt Ryan is up there.
no, I think he's still due like 36, 37 this year.
Oh shit, the cap hit wise, probably
Right.
maybe not, but I know
But
Derek Carr was up there. Not
yeah.
sure where he is now.
But then I look at like Tannehill's deal. That made sense at the time. You know what I mean? And I would
Yeah,
say Daniel Jones' game is a very similar to Tannehill's. But he's not a $45 million quarterback. And that kind of goes into what I was saying about you can't pay a decent player like a max contract because then you just get yourself in a mess,
oh shit.
which is the same mess the Giants are still trying to pull themselves out of with Adoree Jackson, Kenny Galladay, Leonard Williams. Like they paid all
Right,
these
right.
guys huge money and kind of put them in this position they're in today. So Daniel, I think realistically, you're looking at 25 to 35 million tops because even if he hits the open market, he'll be lucky to get 25, 35.
I don't know, man. Strange things happen on the open market.
It
So
is.
I agree, but it's like, do the Giants want to take that risk? Because it is hard to find a quarterback in this league. And as much as I knocked Daniel Jones, I mean, he improved, and
Yeah.
he didn't have the worst year. You know what I mean? Like I think for what they asking for, he's good. But like you said, it's 40 million. That's 45 million. That's too high.
Right.
So I think if anything, you look at it like a 35 million down there with guys like Kirk Cousins and you know what I mean down in that range. But
That's where he
anything above
belongs.
that, that's where he belongs. Yeah, yeah. And then obviously, if he feels that's his guy, then it's a projection of what you're going to do for me moving forward, not versus what he's done the prior years when he was like a turnover machine. Because
Right.
last year he actually took care of the ball a little bit more. I think he was a good fit for that offense. He turned into Michael Vick, Vanilla Vick, what they call him down there in New York. So I mean, I'm not mad at them for wanting to keep him around, and I'm not mad for him wanting that deal because obviously, if you're getting paid, then you know that very first contract is kind of where you're gonna make your money at,
Sure.
and then after that, you know what I mean, you kind of depends where you want to look at your career. Like, do I want to win, and kind of balance it off from there. But like you said, me personally, 35 million. If you're asking for the 45, maybe a franchise tag will be on the deal. You know, on the table, and
Yeah.
then maybe you look elsewhere this year. But I think see what he can do on a Brian Dayball another year, and then maybe they can come to agreement on it. You know what I mean, somewhere in the middle.
I think that's fair. Yeah. You might have to tag him. But then I do think Deshaun Watson screwed up the whole quarterback market. Because if you look at from Daniel Jones' point of view, like this guy's getting paid what? And he was terrible this year. Look what I
Kyler too.
did. You know what I mean? Look what I
Yeah,
did with less talent. So I think Deshaun Watson screwed everything up. Sticking at the quarterback position, though, I know we talked earlier about Justin Fields, and I mentioned a couple weeks ago, is there a possibility that Chicago moves off of him? And I think it is very likely. I know Ryan Pace is the one who drafted Fields. Ryan Poles is now the general manager.
right.
And when the season ended, pretty much they asked Ryan Poles, like, what do you want to see out of Justin Fields? Where can he improve? And he said, throwing the ball. And when you're talking about that with your franchise quarterback, you've got a situation on your hands. But then there's even comments of him saying, I'm not opposed to taking a quarterback one overall if anyone blows me away. You know what I mean? So do you think that it's worth a shot if you think you can improve at the position to restart with this rookie quarterback contract with say like a CJ Stroud and then you can turn around and get some compensation for Justin Fields.
I mean, we've seen that. Okay, I'll put it like this: we've seen that work before. You know what I mean? Obviously, prior years we see the Cardinals draft Josh Rosen.
True.
1 year later, they roll with Kyler Murray. Like
Right.
perfect. I mean, that worked out perfectly. Of course, you know what you have, and if they feel like Fields is not the guy, then you know what I mean. It makes sense, right? But my thing is, I think you also have to look at it from a standpoint of you have perfect examples out there where you have a Jacksonville just last year,
Yeah.
quarterback in the same draft. They seen he had a terrible year, terrible offense, terrible everything, bad offensive scheme, bad coaches around him, and
Yeah.
they just went into the offseason and put weapons around him, and then he looked like who they thought he would be. And then you think about a Josh Allen, you know what I mean? They was terrible his first couple of years, you know what I mean? He didn't look good. He was a turnover machine, overthrowing balls all over the place, and they got him the weapons. And then he resembled the guy who they thought he would be. And I think the same thing stands for Justin Fields, man. I think he's showing you flashes.
He does.
But have they put him in the best position to be who they want him to be?
No,
You know what I
absolutely
mean?
not.
Like, I don't think the weapons were there. I thought the offensive line was terrible. And possibly out of all the quarterbacks that played this year, he was in one of the worst situations. So I feel like you remove a Justin Fields and you put a CJ Stroud in that same situation that Fields was in these past couple of years, what would be the difference?
You got 2 more years to build around that rookie contract, I think, is the difference, in my opinion. But at the same time, I feel
No. Just so you understand my question. Okay. Let's say CJ Stroud 2 years ago
right.
was moved into this situation with the same team. What would be the difference? Do
Oh,
you
there wouldn't
think
be one.
there wouldn't be a difference, right? So
No.
I feel like fair chance, you know what I mean? I don't think he's been given a fair shot. He'll go somewhere else and may light it up. But I think you look at what Philly did for Justin, you can keep going on and on. Jalen Hurts, I mean.
Sure.
Like the styles of the quarterback and the way that he played, like you can build around a guy like that if you put the pieces around him and you actually scheme around him. So it may be a mistake, but if they want to go elsewhere, I understand it too. You know what I mean? But they haven't given him a fair shot over there in Chicago.
I think to take it like full circle, though, that Justin Fields would thrive playing indoors compared to having to play outside in Chicago. He doesn't have the best arm. So now he's going to be stuck playing in the snow 3 games a year. And he's still got to go to Lambeau. You know what I mean? So I think for him, leaving
That's
Chicago
true.
would be a blessing in disguise. So I'm kind of, I'm a Fields fan. I'm not trying to knock the guy, but he had me and you out there blocking for him last season, and he was running
Yeah.
for his freaking life. So I do think you've got a general manager who's not married to the guy, that it is in the realm of possibility.
Yeah. I mean, I understand it though. I mean, if it depends on like what they felt about CJ Stroud. You know, if
Sure.
they fall in love with the guy and you know what I mean, the coaches over there, obviously you have a new staff. If that's what they want, and he's your guy, then go for it by all means and build around a guy. If you feel like arm talent is the way you want to go,
Right.
and that's the direction, you know what I mean. But you know what I mean, don't be surprised if they was to trade him. I don't know if they would trade him to the NFC. You know what I mean, give him to a team like Atlanta or something like that. They probably want to send him to the AFC side just so they don't see much of him. So for Houston or a team like that, I would line up for it. You know what I mean?
Yeah, absolutely.
Get you a Fields under there. You still have the picks for it. I mean, yeah, I would do it in a heartbeat, man. I think Fields can be a star in this league still. So
I think if anything, if Chicago doesn't at least trade back from that 1 pick and accrue mad picks to put all kinds of shit around Fields, then they're doing him a disservice. You know what I mean? Like
but
I
I don't
think
think but can you go back?
I think you can. I think you can
No, I
move.
mean, can you put a guy on the trade block and then come back and then run this thing back? Like, can he put his pride to the side at this point? Like the team that drafted you pretty much said, hey, look, we don't know if you are a guy or not. You know what I mean? So, like, what does that put him in that franchise in general?
I guess it really depends on his mindset. Like, does he see that as disrespectful or as motivation? You know what I mean?
That's fair. That's fair.
And I feel like just from seeing him as a competitor, I hope he sees it as motivation. So if he does stick around in Chicago, like prove to this new regime that like, hey, these last guys did make a good choice, giving up a 1st-round pick to move up in the 1st round for me. You know what I mean?
Yeah, give me some weapons.
Right.
Give me something to work with, man, and I'll show you. Like, you know what I mean? That would be my argument.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? But you think about it, and like I said, it's some spots out there that would take a guy like that. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? When you think about the quarterback position and how hard it is to find a guy, I think a lot of teams just take that for granted because you lose a guy like that, and then it's hard to find another one. Not saying he's been this guy at this point of his career, but quarterbacks are hard to find. So
Right.
you looking at a CJ Stroud or some of these guys out there, hey, it's a fair chance that they might not be that guy either.
Right.
So
Now, sticking to the offensive side of the ball, Eric Bieniemy did just leave Andy Reid's shadow, and he's headed over to Washington to call plays. Talk to me about that.
mm,
Actually, real quick,
not
I got a new theory on this. So I know before when we talked about it, I was like, he needs to get out of Reid's shadow, go establish his own name. But I think I'm moving to this other side of it where I don't think Pat Mahomes wanted him there. And if Pat don't
yeah. I
want,
mean, it's weird because in that situation, you would think it depends. Like if that's your guy, you keep a guy around. Like why move? You kind of got this dynasty thing moving around. Like why wouldn't Andy Reid or why wouldn't he want to keep a guy like that around? Or does he truly want to see him, thrive in another situation? So I I look at it like that. And then for Eric Bieniemy, I kind of thought about it like, why would you want to leave? But I think the biggest thing, why would you want to go to this situation?
right,
When you think about Washington, the offense outside of the run game, it's not a lot there. You know what I mean? The offensive line wasn't the best, but I think they had a good scheme going on as
yeah,
far as the run game. You know what I mean? The run, it's kind of been the only silver lining with that team, but they do have weapons. But I just think if you wanted to prove yourself, maybe he looks at it from a situation where this team hasn't been the best. And if I get this team to where, maybe they're top 10 now, should teams come calling for him? You know what I mean? So it sucks because he's in a division. You know what I mean? I
good
want to see
division.
them do terrible, but I kind of want to see him do well. I kind of rooting from him from a different standpoint of just hoping that, you know what I mean, he finds some footing in the league, man, and he gets a shot because if there's any guy that we was kind of baffled with the past couple of years, it was like just a gray area. Like, why is he getting jobs? Like,
Right.
you know what I mean? We see all type of people getting jobs nowadays, but for some reason, not him, but you know what I mean? I mean,
No,
prove it
I
in
think
Washington, man.
I'm sorry. I think the Bieniemy situation is getting really weird because he's had 12 interviews. So he's getting interviews, he just can't get the job. You know what I mean? So I don't know,
Yeah.
like he's a bad interviewer. Maybe he's weird. I don't know. Like it could be whatever, but
Or could be some stuff behind the
I do think
scenes.
Matt.
We know.
That's true too. But I do think my new theory is that I think Pat Mahomes wanted him out and wants Matt Nagy back. I don't know,
That's
just
fair.
a thought.
Yeah, Nagy is out there. But I mean, if you kind of look around, Andy Reid, people from his tree hasn't really had the most success. The only guy I can really think
Sure.
of is a Doug Peterson. You know what I
Hmm.
mean? He went there, he looks well, but everybody else just kind of just fell flat on their face. You know what I mean? Doesn't look good. So I think maybe the league looks at it from that standpoint. Who knows? You know what I mean? So you kind of do got to get out of Andy Reid's shadow. You know what I mean? Just to kind of
Yeah.
prove yourself. But I think the difference is I think those guys was calling plays over there. If I'm not mistaken, I don't know. I have to kind of look a little bit deeper into it. So
Can you imagine if like Washington, they got talented guys over there. They got McLaurin, the rookie Dotson, Curtis
they got
Samuel's
weapons.
good. They got weapons. Imagine if Eric Bieniemy is out of Reid's shadow and makes that offense top notch. Like what that would do for him. You know what I mean?
Oh, the resume gonna look good if he can go over there and say, "Hey, look, I had Sam Howell. This is what I present to you." And if it's the top, like I said, top not even top 10, but top 15, with knowing how terrible that offense has been.
Hmm.
You know what I mean? Especially to score some touchdowns. It's been a terrible red zone team. You know what I mean in the past. Keep the run game. I want to see what type of schemes he bring over there. But I think it's a terrible situation. I'm gonna be honest, man. So you know what I mean. Good luck to him over there in Washington. I just say that it's been a dumpster fire.
The last thing I wanted to bring up is Jonathan Gannon decided to stay in Arizona after the Super Bowl, and it looks like he signed a multi-year deal, so he does have some pull. I don't think it's like a one and done situation for him. Philly is now without their offensive and defensive coordinator from their Super Bowl team, but Jonathan Gannon is walking into a situation without a quarterback probably all season and kind of a complete mess as well. What are your thoughts on the hire there?
I truly think this is like the worst job out there, which makes sense because it was like the last job
Right.
available. Somebody had to sign up for it, but you know, I look at it like you're a defensive coach. You know, what I mean, you do have some pieces over there, but it's a lot to build on both sides of the ball. I think they will have to make some moves. You know, D Hop move some stuff around. You still got to deal with the college situation. I do think he may be in over his head, man. It isn't the best spot for him if you think about a young coach as young as he is moving into that
Hmm.
situation. So this is not when we talk about Eric Bieniemy and you know what I mean get into a role or a spot that kind of sets these guys up to thrive. This you know what I mean this isn't the best spot, man.
I feel like too with like when a coordinator becomes a head coach, I feel like they've like mastered their side of the ball, and now they're on to the next thing. But I don't feel
Right.
like Jonathan Gannon mastered like being a defensive coordinator. I think there was still room for improvement there. So I think he might have left too early, especially to go to a situation like this. You know what I mean? What are you going to play with Colt McCoy? Like that's going to be terrible.
And I kind of
I,
wonder like what the hype was about. I mean, he led a great team. I mean, a great unit. You know what I mean? But we knew top to bottom, like yeah, like that, the team and the makeup and the guys they had over there. You know what I mean? It was good, but if you was to listen to Philly community and some of the guys over there and the fans and just kind of get the pulse, I don't think they was big fans of Jonathan Gagnon. Just to be
right.
honest, so. You know, but then you hear the rumors that you know Philly tried to pay a little bit more to keep him around. So it's something about that, you know what I mean, the staff and you know what I mean, pretty much they wanted to keep him around, but I don't think the community did. So he's a young guy. I give him that. And maybe it's from a standpoint of a guy who's a young guy who maybe has a bright mind that has yet to fulfill what he has, you know what I mean, as far as potential. And maybe he just projects in the future, you know what I mean, a young guy that just, you know what I mean, we've kind of seen it lately. Seems like it's moving to like the fresh faces, you know what I mean, not the old dinosaurs as of late. And he one of
Right.
those guys. You know what I mean, I wish him luck. You know what I mean, you're not in our division no more. You know what I mean, you got a shitty situation. I think Kyler, you know what I mean, you ran one coach out the door. If this one doesn't work out, he may be, you know what I mean, looking at a new destination himself. So we'll have to see how it play out over there, you know what I mean?